Hadley laughed, then told him, "I'm going to stop counting at 9. So, where do we start?" Having never worked around a car wash, Hadley needed to learn terms specific to the business, but otherwise understood everything Chandler started explaining. "We really need a better inventory tracking program," she offered. "This one is adequate, but just barely. If you're willing to spend $100, I know one that will recoup your investment in no time. Oh, and for another 50, their payroll program is superb." "I understand that means per location, and even so, done and done," Chandler told her. "A boss that listens. Now I know I'm going to like working here," she said with a smile. She may have been in shorts and a blue t-shirt, but she still looked amazing. Her hair was pulled back into a ponytail, making her look even younger than normal. Hadley was 33, but looked closer to 25 or so. With her hair like that, she could easily be mistaken for at least 5 years younger. "Is Avery doing okay at school?" Chandler asked once they'd covered all the basics. "Sorry, I meant preschool." "Yeah, and don't you forget it," Hadley said, "because if you do, Avery will remind you. She's got to be the sweetest little thing ever." "I'm kind of fond of her," Hadley said. "She's been such a trooper through it all. I suppose the only redeeming thing about losing her father is she was so young she didn't go through the kind of heartache an older child would. And sadly, or maybe not, she'll barely remember him in a few more years. I guess that's a mixed blessing of sorts." Chandler nodded, then asked, "Is it too personal to ask how you're doing, Hadley?" "Well, I guess most of the time I've felt pretty strong these last 3 or 4 months. Before that, there were times I just wanted to stay in bed and make the world go away. But Avery gave me the motivation to get up and get going every day, so overall, I'd say I'm doing rather well considering it's only been 15 months. And I have to say, having this job is really going to help. I know I keep saying it, but thank you. And if I may say so again, I'm the lucky one here. I can't believe I found someone with your experience willing to take a job so far beneath her skill level." "Then I guess we can feel lucky together." Chandler thought about saying something along the lines of their being together and feeling, but didn't. Even so, Hadley picked up on it. "What? What was that look all about?" she asked with a bright, happy smile. "Oh, nothing, at least nothing you'd want to hear," he told her in a way that only helped to confirm her suspicions. She smiled in a way that told him she got the drift, then said, "You might be surprised at the things I wouldn't mind hearing." Chandler sat there for a moment thinking, before he looked at her and said, "Even something like me telling you I'd like to ask you to have dinner with me sometime?" Hadley was a little surprised to actually hear him say what she'd been thinking he meant. It took her a second to get her bearing before saying, "It's funny, but that's what I assumed you were alluding to." "Well, I'm happy to know I was able to amuse you," Chandler said in a way that was playful rather than having been hurt. "Even so," Hadley said, "it wasn't amusing, Chandler. It was very sweet of you." "I think sweet is a step up from amusement," he said, still keeping it light. "It's not exactly a resounding endorsement, but I can live with that." Hadley looked at him for several seconds before saying, "Do you really want to go out with me?" Chandler gave her a funny look, then said, "Yes, I really do." "Is it so hard to imagine I do? Or is it just hard to imagine you actually going out with me?" "The truth is I hadn't really thought about it, until just now. I just sort of assumed you were being nice when you said so many kind things about me because that's who you are, a nice person. I don't hear things like that anymore from anyone, so I'll admit it was, well, nice to hear." She smiled, then said, "Very nice, in fact. I guess I just never imagined you'd want to ask me out knowing I'm, a wee bit older than you. Oh, and I also have a daughter, so—" Chandler smiled at her, then said, "Hadley, I don't have much time to date these days, and for the most part, that's fine. I know there will be plenty of time for that after I get a few more locations up and running." "In addition to the legacy location, right?" she teased in a polite way. "Yes, the legacy location, this place right here, the place where it all began. One day, people will read about the Chandler Caulfield empire and realize this is where it all began." He was pretending to be narrating the story of his life, which had been made into a movie and several books, and his acting was so over the top, Hadley couldn't help but laugh. "You're the first person who's really made me laugh or feel good about myself since my husband died, Chandler. I can't tell you how good that feels. I will also tell you I'm not blind, so I've noticed. A time or two, that you're a rather nice-looking guy. But I really don't understand the attraction you see in me. Evidently, I haven't been very clear about how I see you, even though I've hinted and complimented you, etc. So, I'll try and make it more clear. I don't find dating girls my age interesting or fun. I don't mean to sound egotistical or condescending, but most of them can't carry on a conversation that's deeper than the headlines from TMZ. I don't know if I'm some kind of weirdo or, to be a little less hard on myself, some kind of anachronism, but I am very attracted to intelligent women, and most of them tend to be older than me. He sat there hoping she wouldn't think he was some kind of smug, sanctimonious jerk after being as open and honest with her as he could. Wow, I have to also admit I didn't see that coming, she replied. As to you being weird, I'd say just the opposite. You're smart, funny, well-grounded, confident without being cocky, something I despise in men, and mature. So the fish-out-of-water description seems a lot more applicable than weird. So, was that a yes? Chandler said with a huge smile. You don't give up, do you? Hadley said sweetly. Not really. I tend to be pretty tenacious when I set my mind to something. If I say no, will you fire me? She asked. She kept a straight face, making Chandler wonder if she could possibly be serious. Number, I won't fire you. I might mope around and act like some kind of sad sack for a while, but I would never cut off my nose to spite my face, he told her. Then I suppose if you're desperate enough to want to go out with someone my age, I suppose one date wouldn't be all that bad, she said with a smile. Another ringing endorsement. Looks like I have my work cut out for me, Chandler said, pretending to be very serious. I should warn you, though, I haven't been on a date since I was dating James back when you were… Oh, never mind. No worries. The good news is they got rid of those stone tablets and print the menu on paper these days in most restaurants. Also, they no longer… Hadley looked for the first thing to throw at him and had to settle for a pad of paper. Okay, I get it, she said. Kids these days, sheesh. Her smile was so sweet Chandler wanted to kiss her in the worst way. Instead, he promised to give her a call once he'd had some time to think about where to take her. Just don't spend a lot of money, okay? She said. It doesn't take much to impress me. Interesting, he said. Hadley raised her eyebrows, not sure what he meant. Well, you just said it doesn't take much to impress you, and you did mention a little early you were impressed with me, so… Taking that to its logical conclusion, I'm not… much. Oh, okay, you are so in trouble, she said, looking for something else to throw. Finding nothing but a stapler, she narrowed her eyes and said, You are so lucky this is the only thing I can lay my hands on right now. Chandler put his up as he stood and said, Okay, I think I'm going to leave before I get injured. Oh, good call, Hadley said, because if you stick around any longer, you might just get hurt. She was very aware this was high school banter and didn't care. It was just so nice to feel happy again. And she'd also just been asked out by someone she found very attractive. No, she'd have never given him a second look had she not gotten to know him, but now that she had, he had an appeal about him she couldn't really explain. Speaking of calls, I will call you later, Chandler said. Are you okay with running things for now? I feel very comfortable, and I can always ask Carl if I get stuck. I won't hesitate to call you, but I promise I won't be bothering you every few minutes with something trivial, Hadley told him. You'd never be bothering me, Chandler replied with a smile. Call any time. Yeah, you too, she said in her politest voice. Any time. As he walked out, Hadley found herself staring at his butt, something she just never did. When he turned to wave goodbye as he opened the door, she felt like a schoolgirl who'd just been caught doing something wrong. When he smiled at her like that, she knew he knew, and for the first time in many, many years, she blushed. Oh my gosh, she said to herself after he stopped looking and walked off. She waited for the color to drain from her face before going outside and pitching in on the line. More than once she caught one of the guys staring at her butt and could only smile and pretend she hadn't noticed. Turnabout really is fair play, she told herself, flattered by the attention and enjoying being part of a team again. When Chandler called back, Hadley realized the one and only babysitter she'd ever used was out of town. I'm so sorry, Chandler. I really was looking forward to this, she said apologetically. Then bring her with you, he said cheerfully. I love kids and Avery is about as sweet as they get, so bring her along, unless of course this is your way of backing out of being seen with me in public. Hadley was genuinely touched by his offer, and his humor. "I'm definitely not trying to back out, Chandler. I just wanted to be honest with you like you were with me," she told him. "Well, not exactly like I was with you," he said playfully. "After all, I told you I was attracted to older women, and you didn't say a thing about being attracted to younger men." There was a quiet moment before Hadley started laughing. "What you actually said was you were attracted to intelligent women, and that most of them just happened to be older than you," she reminded him. "Busted," he said. Note to self, Hadley listens to every word. That drew another laugh before she got serious again. "Are you really sure? About bringing Avery? She can be a little chatty." "Well, the more she talks, the less opportunity there'll be for me to say something foolish and totally blow it with you," he told her. For the first time since James got sick, Hadley felt that giddy feeling people get when they like someone. "You won't blow it with me, Chandler," she said very sweetly. "I really am easy to please." I'm not quite sure how to take that one either since you are going out with me. Does that mean I'm really not impressive so you're being kind to me or—" "Chandler, you can stop talking now and pick me up at 7, she said, unable to stop smiling. "And Miss Avery, right?" "Yes, Miss Avery too. She is going to be thrilled when I tell her." "I'm glad, and I'm really looking forward to this," Chandler added. "Yeah, me too," she said back, "so I'll see you later tonight then." "You will. Bye, Hadley." "Bye, Chandler." When Hadley picked Avery up from preschool, she did her jabber jaws thing all the way back to the car wash before her mom had a chance to talk. "How would you like to go out tonight?" she asked. "For pizza?" she said excitedly. "No, for a real grown-up meal at a restaurant." "Ah, do I have to eat vegetables?" she asked, making a face. "I should say yes, but—" "No, you don't have to eat vegetables," she said, stressing the proper pronunciation. "Do I have to wear a dress?" Avery asked, as though that would be just awful. "No, but you would look very pretty in a dress, and since we're going with someone, I think that might be nice." Avery sucked her breath in the way she did whenever she was excited and said, "Who, Mommy?" "Chandler, you know, Mr. Hot Chocolate and Marshmallow Man." "I love him," Avery said happily. "Okay, I'll wear a dress. Mommy, are you going to wear a dress too? You should, so you'll be very pretty, and then Mr. Marshmallow Man will want to marry you." "Avery Marie, what are you talking about? We're not getting married, we're just going out to dinner, that's all," her mom explained. "Oh, okay, but I'm going to ask Daddy to help you get married because I really like Mr. Marshmallow Man," she informed her mother. "But if you don't want to marry him, then I will, okay?" Hadley didn't reply to her daughter's question. For the first time, she regretted telling her daughter such a tall tale. The thought of her getting her heart broken after losing her father was too much. And when she not only didn't marry the Marshmallow Man but didn't even go out with him again, how could she explain it wasn't her daddy's fault? "Just remember, honey, angels are very busy and not even they can make all of our wishes come true, okay?" "Okay, but they can make some wishes come true, right?" she asked hopefully. Hadley sighed, smiled, then said, "Yes, I'm sure they can, sweetie." And that's when Hadley realized Avery had almost certainly outgrown anything decent she had to wear. Yes, she had school clothes, but they consisted of black skirts and white blouses, which was the uniform for preschoolers. Next year, she'd need a different color skirt, but she'd still be wearing a uniform. Fortunately, there was a mall on the way home, and in spite of traffic, Hadley was able to get in and find a very pretty dress for her daughter that didn't cost a lot of money. She was tempted to buy something for herself, but as the money left from James's insurance was running low, another important reason she needed a job, she decided to hold off knowing she had plenty of things to wear at home. Avery couldn't wait to wear her new dress and just had to change into it as soon as they got back. She looked adorable in the long-sleeved Bonnie Jean black and white dress with a pair of white tights and black shoes. Hadley put a white bow in the back of her hair, and Avery asked if she was beautiful. "Why, yes you are," she told her daughter. "Oh, good. So if you don't want to marry Mr. Marshmallow Man, then he can marry me," she said again. Hadley covered her mouth and tried not to laugh, but this time she did reply. "Maybe in a few more years, okay?" she said. Avery turned around and said, "Can you wear black and white just like me?" "Oh, well, I guess we could look," Hadley said. "This one, Mommy, please," Avery said, pointing at the only black and white dress her mom owned. She'd bought it before James got sick and had never worn it. It was black except for the cuffs at the half sleeves and the hem, which was very short on the left side but longer the right. The 2-inch white border went around the entire dress, then ran diagonally back up its front, It was very cute and even a bit hot. Now that she'd really looked at it, it seemed too young for a woman her age, making Hadley feel it was inappropriate for a first date. She held it up to herself, but after turning left then right, thought, then again, how could it hurt to look as young as possible, right? Okay, I'll wear this one, she told Avery, who clapped and hugged her mother, making the decision seem even more right. With the start of another school year came the cooler weather, and that meant breaking out the coats and sweaters again. It wasn't cold enough for a coat yet, but it was definitely cool enough for a sweater, so Hadley grabbed the prettiest black cardigan she had and laid it on her purse as she finished getting ready. The last time she'd been this dressed up, she was also wearing black, all black. She tried not to think about that day when Avery had been so small and unable to understand death. Hadley wasn't sure she wanted her to see her father for the last time like that, but he'd looked so much like he was sleeping. She'd raised her up to look at his handsome face that had been thinned by the ravages of cancer. Will Daddy ever wake up again? Was the only question she'd asked. Well, no one really knows for sure, honey, was the best she could offer. That's when she'd made up the angel story, and it had satisfied her daughter's curiosity for the time being. When she was finished getting ready, she tried not be overly critical, knowing she was her own worst enemy when it came to her appearance. She'd always loved the way her long blonde hair looked when she wore black, and with the gold necklace and earrings she actually felt pretty good about the way she looked for once. The dress really was cute, and yes, it was definitely a little bit hot. "Mommy, you look like a princess," Avery said when she came in and saw her mom looking at herself in the mirror. "And that's why I love you so much," Hadley said as she scooped her daughter up to shrieks of laughter. Just as she was twirling her around, the doorbell rang and Avery hollered, "I'll get it." Hadley sat her down and off she went. Her mother quickly walked behind her just in case it wasn't Chandler. "Can you reach it?" Hadley asked as Avery got her tippy toes. "Yes," she said as she tried to turn the knob. Hadley helped just enough to avoid being told she didn't need help, then stepped back. "Mr. Marshmallow Man," Avery happily called out. Chandler handed her a whole bag of marshmallows and said, "Will that last you for a while?" "Mommy, look, a whole bag of marshmallows." As Hadley was saying, "I see that," Chandler handed her a bouquet of flowers. "Oh my goodness, Chandler, they're beautiful, thank you." Hadley was so touched she leaned over and kissed him on the cheek just as he said, "Speaking of beautiful." "Wow." "My mommy's a princess," Avery informed him before Mom could reply. "Yes, she is," he agreed. "Both of you are just as pretty as can be." "Do you like my new dress?" she asked. "Well, let me see," he said before he reached under her arms and lifted her up. Avery laughed again and Chandler told her, "Oh yes. That is a very pretty dress, and I really like this bow and back. Did you put that there?" He looked at her very seriously and got another laugh. "Number, I can't reach back there, my mommy did that." She looked at her mother, then said, "Mommy, why don't you wear a bow too?" This time Hadley drew the line and said, "Not tonight, honey. One bow in our family is enough, okay?" "Okay," Avery said as Chandler held her. "So are you ladies ready to go eat?" he asked. "Yes," Avery answered for both of them, "and I don't have to eat any vegetables." She was closer to the correct pronunciation, but not quite there yet. "I still need to get my shoes on," Hadley said. "Can you give me just a minute?" "Sure, take all the time you need. That'll let me spend more time with the other beautiful girl in this house," he said while smiling at Avery. Her mom wasn't even out of sight when she said, "Are you gonna marry my mommy?" Hadley stopped, spun around, opened her mouth in disbelief, then didn't know what to say. Chandler laughed and said, "Out of the mouth of babes, right?" "I'm not a baby," Avery informed him. "Oh no, you most definitely are not a baby." Hadley was still watching and shaking her head when Chandler said, "But your mom is a babe." Hadley felt her face turn red, again, even as Avery laughed and pointed at her saying, "Mommy is a baby, Mommy is a baby." "I'll, be right back," she said, pointing toward the bedroom. When she came back out, Chandler was laughing and playing with Avery but stopped when he saw her. Just the addition of the heels made her even more beautiful. "Wow, you look amazing," he told her as he tried not to stare. "I wasn't sure about the dress. Is it okay?" she asked with a wrinkled nose. "It's perfect," he assured her. "Both of you are just perfect. You look like twins." That comment drew a smile from Hadley and another comment from Avery, who talked all the way to the restaurant. "This place is very fancy," Avery announced when they arrived. Yes, it is, Hadley agreed. She leaned toward Chandler and said, "Someone didn't pay any attention to my request not to spend a lot of money." "It's okay," he told her quietly. "I have 20% off coupons for the buffet." Hadley couldn't help but laugh, as this was anything but the kind of place that offered discounts or served buffet-style meals. "I believe that's number 10, she said with a smile that was even more beautiful, set off by the dark red lipstick. "I thought you stopped counting," Chandler said. "I'm a woman, Chandler. I can change my mind if I want to," she said, as she threw her head back slightly before both of them laughed. Tell me, Avery said, wondering what the joke is. "Nothing, honey. Mr. Marshmallow Man just knows how to make me laugh. That's all," she said to Avery while looking at Chandler. "Like this," Chandler said as he made silly faces at Avery. She giggled loudly, then said, "He makes me laugh too, Mommy." By the time they finished dinner, Hadley saw Chandler in a very different light. She'd been impressed with him since the first time they'd met, but she had no idea he was such an interesting, complex, and fun person to be around. She found herself having a wonderful time, made even better by the way Avery not only took to him, but by the way he seemed to genuinely care about her as well. And yet she couldn't seem to get beyond the fact that he wasn't yet 21 years old. He wasn't even able to order a drink with dinner, so after that, Hadley canceled the order as she didn't like drinking alone. Was it wise of her to have such strong second thoughts over just one issue, or was she being foolish? On the plus side, he didn't look like a 20-year-old boy, but rather more like a 25-year-old man. But at 33, it wasn't so much how he looked as it was that he'd been just 5 years old when she'd graduated from high school that kept playing over and over in her mind. By the time they got back to her place, Hadley gave up thinking about it, knowing this was just a date and nothing more. She did let him walk them to the door and was almost relieved when he didn't ask to come in. What she couldn't figure out was whether she was relieved because he was so young, or because she knew if she did let him in, she might do something she'd later regret. No, she'd never sleep with him. But he really was adorable, and it wasn't out of the realm of possibilities she might just let him kiss her. No, this was definitely much better, she thought as he got ready to leave. "Good night, ladies," Chandler said as he bent down for Avery. "Can you come inside and play with me?" she asked innocently. "Oh, I don't think so, sweetheart. Your mom is probably tired of seeing me by now. But maybe some other time, okay?" "Ah," she said, pouting again. "No, I'm not tired of seeing you," Hadley told him. "I had a very nice time tonight." "I'm glad. Me too," Chandler told her. "I'd very much like to do this again sometime." "Can we? Please?" Avery begged. "Honey," Hadley said, knowing she shouldn't continue letting her daughter act like that. "Well, let's see how things go, okay?" Hadley said, her eyebrows slightly raised. "Fair enough," Chandler said, and he smiled, then told her, "You only get one chance to make a good impression, and I gave it my best shot." Now Hadley felt bad for making such a big deal out of the age thing and told him, "Honestly, you made a very good impression on me." "It's my age, isn't it?" he said, somehow sensing that was the problem. I don't know, Chandler. Maybe. I mean, the difference between you and Avery is pretty close to the difference between you and me. I hate that it bothers me, but that's okay," he told her in a very upbeat way. "I really am aggressive when it comes to getting what I want, but I'm not pushy. Just know I like you a lot, and I'd love to go out with you again sometime." "Can I have some time to think about it?" she asked politely. "Of course, and regardless of what you decide, I couldn't be happier to have you managing the Legacy location," Hadley said before they both laughed. Not sure if he should press his luck or not, Chandler gently put a hand on her shoulder and leaned over and kissed her on the cheek. "Me too," Avery said as she watched him kiss her mother. "Oh right," Chandler said as he leaned down and pecked her on the cheek. He then did it several times real fast, causing Avery to giggle loudly. "Good night, ladies," he said quietly. "Good night, Mr. Marshmallow Man," Avery said as her mom thanked Chandler again. "I'll see you bright and early again tomorrow, I guess," she said. "You will," he told her before he waved to Avery again and walked away. Even though Chandler was positive and professional the next morning, she could tell he was acting differently. It was very subtle, but she wasn't imagining it. He smiled, he laughed, he joked around. But it was the way one person acts once they get the impression the other person isn't interested in them in the same way. She couldn't blame him, as he'd been a perfect gentleman and had paid well over $100 for the 3 meals and left a $20 tip. Hadley couldn't remember the last time she'd enjoyed herself so much, and yet he was only 20 years old. For the rest of the week, he spent a couple of hours with her each morning, just as he'd said he would, and when she told him she was ready to fly solo, he backed off and stopped coming to the Legacy location. The following Monday morning, after taking care of paperwork, Hadley was outside helping the crew when someone got out of their car and called her by name. "Hadley? Hadley Simpson?" the man said. "That was my maiden name. It's Kimball now," she said as her brain scrambled to make sense of it. "It's me, Mark Levinson, from high school in Ohio." Hadley dropped the towel she was holding as she finally recognized the man who looked vaguely familiar to her. "Oh, my gosh, Mark, what in the world are you doing here?" she asked as they hugged. "I moved out here a couple of years ago. I work for a new software development company," he told her. "How about you?" "My husband and I did the same thing, only he was in marketing. He got a job working for Boeing Aircraft and spent most of his time promoting their brand." "Lucky guy, I'm actually envious. You know I had a huge crush on you back then, right?" "Get out of here," she said. "You had a crush on me? You were the best-looking guy in the senior class." "And you were the prettiest girl," he told her. "And even though you're pretty much soaking wet right now, I'd say you still are. I'd like to meet your husband sometime so I can hate him in person." Mark was smiling and being playful, making it even harder for Hadley to tell him the truth. "Jesus, Hadley, I'm so sorry. I feel like a total jerk. Please forgive me," he said sincerely. "You were just being friendly, Mark. It's okay, really," she assured him. Once that was behind them, Hadley couldn't stop smiling as she and Mark reminisced. He eventually asked for her number and gave her his in return. "How would you like to get together sometime?" he asked just before leaving. "I'd like that very much," she told him, having forgotten all about her younger boss. "I'll give you a call then. And Hadley, I can't believe we bumped into each other at a car wash in Seattle, Washington of all places after all these years." "Yeah, talk about small world, right?" she said, still smiling happily. That evening, Mark did call and asked her out. Hadley still hadn't found a replacement babysitter and was thrilled when the girl she normally used answered the phone. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Kimball. I just got back today and I missed a few days of school and I'm spending all my time studying and catching up. Anytime after that, and I'm happy to watch Avery, but I just can't right now," she told her. She called Mark back and explained the situation. She could tell he wasn't happy about it. "There's got to be someone to watch your kid, right?" he said after she'd explained she didn't know anyone else to ask. "Unfortunately, no, but I'll do some checking if we can hold off for another day or two," Hadley offered. "Yeah, sure, I mean, it's been 15 years or so? What's another couple of days, right?" Mark told her. He wasn't cold, but he certainly wasn't warm either. The following morning, Chandler stopped by just to see how things were going and was very impressed at how well organized everything was. "You're worth every dollar I'm paying, Hadley. If we get that second location turning a profit, one of the first things I'm doing is giving you a raise," he told her. She'd installed the new software programs at both locations, and they were already saving money as a result. Just before he left, Chandler asked how Avery was doing. "She's fine. I just need to find a babysitter for her. Well, I have one, but she's currently unavailable, and I'll watch her any time, just let me know," Chandler told her in a way that said he wasn't joking. "Oh, I couldn't," Hadley said, unable to look at him, knowing it was so she could go out with another man, one her own age who was still very good-looking. "I'm happy to do it, even if it's because you're going on a date." "How did you know that was the reason?" she asked, amazed yet again at his insight. "I didn't know," he told her, "but I do know you're a beautiful woman and men are going to ask you out. It didn't take much to put two and two together. When do you need me?" "Chandler, I can't," she said, feeling incredibly guilty. "Nonsense, I love that little kid. We can toast marshmallows using your natural gas fireplace, so it sounds perfect to me." "Are you sure? I mean, you have no idea how awkward this seems to me or how guilty I feel that you even offered." "Come on, Hadley, we're friends too, right? Friends help each other out, so just tell me when." She winced, then said, "Tonight? Sure, what time?" Can I call you?" she asked, still wincing. "Yes, and please relax about this, it's no big deal. I'd rather see you going out and being happy than sitting around alone." He paused, then said, "Of course I'd rather see you going out with me. But if that's not going to happen, then I'd still prefer you to have someone else in your life." Hadley sighed, then said, "You are such an amazing guy, Chandler Caulfield." "Just not amazing enough, right?" he said in a way that didn't sound pathetic or make her feel guilty. That evening, Chandler arrived a few minutes early to make sure he had all the info Hadley needed him to have. Avery was asking to roast marshmallows as soon as he walked in, and she was still bugging him about it 10 minutes later as he and her mother went over the list she'd made. Hadley looked even more amazing than she had when she'd gone out with Chandler and he told her so. She thanked him and felt even worse about the whole situation and wondered how she could have agreed to let him come over and babysit her daughter when she knew the way he felt about her. Even worse, Hadley still wasn't sure how she felt about him. No, that wasn't true. She knew exactly how she felt about him as long as she could pretend he was at least 30. But he wasn't so. "I'll get it," Avery called out again when the doorbell rang. "Are you going to marry my mommy?" she asked when Mark stepped inside. "I just might," he said as he looked at her mother. "No, he is not going to marry me, honey," she said sweetly. "Because you want to marry Mr. Marshmallow Man?" she asked naively. "Who's that?" Mark asked as he looked around. "Him, right over there," Avery said, pointing to Chandler, who waved rather sheepishly. "Who's that?" Mark asked again, only this time he asked Hadley directly. "Mark? This is my boss, Chandler Caulfield. Chandler, this is someone I went to high school with about 1,000,000 years ago," she said, introducing them. Mark shook his hand, then said, "This kid is your boss?" Slightly annoyed, Hadley said, "Yes. He is. He owns 2 car washes in town, and the way things are going, he'll own several more very soon." "Yeah, okay, whatever. You ready to go? You look really hot, by the way," he said, completely ignoring the kid in the room. Hadley looked at Mark, then at Chandler, then said, "Thank you again so much for watching Avery for me." "I wouldn't miss it," he told her with a smile. He went to shake Mark's hand and wish him a good evening, but the older man ignored it and said to Hadley, "We need to get a move on. We don't want to be late. This place is very exclusive and it wasn't easy getting reservations." Chandler didn't say anything, but he saw the distressed look in Hadley's eyes as she grabbed her purse. "We're all set," Chandler told her. "Just go and have a good time, okay?" "Bye, Mommy," Avery called out as she pulled Chandler's hand to come with her to start their marshmallow roast. Hadley wanted to be impressed by the limousine waiting for them outside, but she never had the chance as Mark talked about himself nonstop from the time they got in it until it dropped her off 3 hours later. It was bad enough when he started in on how he was in the gym for a couple of hours every day. But when he moved on to his $500,000 plus bonuses compensation package, or the exclusive area he lived in with a maid and other staff, she couldn't believe this was the same kind, sweet boy she'd known back in high school. She'd barely said anything the entire evening, and when she finally managed to get a word in edgewise about her daughter, the one thing that came through loud and clear was his complete lack of desire to have children. Don't get me wrong, kids are great. Hell, I'd even be willing to put up with having one around, for the right woman, he'd told her. As the limo came to a stop, Mark said, "This doesn't have to end this yearly, you know. We could go back to my place and the driver could bring you home in the morning. After all, you've got the boy wonder upstairs watching your Rugrat, right?" When he reached over to brush her hair back, Hadley's skin crawled. "I had a really nice time tonight, Mark. I've just got a bit of a headache, so I think I'll pass," she told him, trying to remain polite. "It's your loss, babe," he said in a way that indicated he wasn't kidding. "I've changed a lot since high school, let me assure you." "Yes, you have," she said, forcing a smile. "So what do you say?" he said as he moved closer and tried putting his arms around her and kiss her. "I say get your paws off of me, now," Hadley told him in no uncertain terms. He reached over and opened her door, then said, "Like I said, it's your loss." "No doubt," Hadley said as she got out. "If you change your mind, I'm up most of the night," he called to her. The driver had jumped out and closed the door for her after Hadley refused to answer Mark. She rarely got angry, but she was very close right now, and had to take several deep breaths and remind herself that 2 people inside had no knowledge of what happened or why she was so upset before going inside. "Mommy," Avery called out as soon as she heard the door. "What are you still doing up?" she asked after hugging her daughter. "She wasn't feeling so well," Chandler told her. "Right after you left, she said her stomach was bothering her. I took her temperature and it's up just a tad. I didn't want to ruin your evening as it doesn't seem serious." Hadley put her hand on her daughter's forehead and asked how she was feeling. "My tummy hurts," she told her mother. "Let's get you to bed and I'll get some Tylenol for your fever, okay?" It was a little after 11 p.m. when she finally fell asleep, her red cheeks a sign the Tylenol hadn't yet kicked in. Hadley had told Chandler he was welcome to go home as soon as she got there, but he wanted to make sure Avery was okay first. I'm sure she'll be fine. It's probably just a bug or a cold. Kids are always getting something, she told him. So how was your date, if you don't mind me asking? Don't ask, she said in a way that answered his question. That bad, huh? Worse, she said. I can't stand arrogant people, and arrogant narcissists are the worst or the worst. Ouch. He seemed okay from what little I saw, Chandler said, omitting the snide comments and his unwillingness to shake hands. That's what I thought too, she told him. As they say, looks can be deceiving. Don't give up, okay? There's some guy out there who's perfect for you. Just keep looking, and one of these days he'll walk right into your life, Chandler told her with a smile. I'm sure you're right, she told him. As much as I don't like living alone, I'd rather live by myself than be in a relationship with someone who's in love with himself. I consider myself to be a libertarian, but I totally disagree with Ayn Rand on at least one thing, Chandler said out of nowhere. Hadley wasn't an authority on Rand or her philosophy of objectivism, but she was familiar with it. Rand says altruism is a fault. I think it's a virtue. How can you possibly care about someone and not be willing to sacrifice for them? How can you not put their needs ahead of your own? Hadley and James had always put Avery's needs above their own, and the needs of each ahead of themselves. Just hearing Chandler say that out loud touched her deeply and reinforced whatever it was she'd been feeling before. Yes, I agree completely, she told him. I put selfishness right up there with narcissism. Yeah, those aren't traits I find desirable in anyone, Chandler agreed. It's one thing to tell someone you love them. Anyone can do that. It's quite another to show them. And if you don't show them, do you even really love them? Hadley just stood there looking at him without saying a word. Is something wrong? He finally asked when she didn't speak. Nothing's wrong, except possibly with me for thinking age was such a big deal, she said quietly. I'm not pushy, Hadley, but I am here anytime you need me, he said just as quietly. Yes, you are, aren't you? She told him as she looked into his eyes, now not only impressed with him the way she'd been before, but seeing, for the first time, a man who was wise, kind, and caring well beyond his years. Well, I guess I should be going, he said. Please let me know how Avery's doing in the morning, okay? I will. I definitely will, she promised as she walked him to the door. If you need to take her to the doctor tomorrow, by all means, just go, okay? He said as they stood at the door. Thank you, Chandler, she told him. She looked down, then said, I think tonight helped me see things a lot more clearly. I won't ask you to elaborate, he said quietly with a bit of a smile. Thank you, she said as she looked back up at him. And thank you so much for watching my baby tonight. She really loves you, Chandler. Well, I love her too, he told her, and Chandler told her good night then as he turned to leave. Hadley gently grabbed his forearm, then kissed him on the cheek. I should babysit for you more often, he told her as his body ached to hold her and actually kiss her. Chandler? She said without replying to his comment. Yes? If you still wanted to, maybe, get together sometime. I would. I'd like that very much, he told her as he turned back around to face her. Me too, she said sweetly as she looked back up at him. Well, good night then, he said again and turned to leave. Again, she gently grabbed his arm. Chandler? She said again. Uh-huh. I wish I'd gone out with you tonight, she told him. Her eyes locked with his before looking down again. Me too, he said. The third time he turned away and she took his arm, he knew something was different. Chandler? He didn't answer this time, he just looked into her eyes. Would you kiss me? Her voice was soft and gentle and full of emotion as she stared into his eyes. He put his hand on her shoulder and for the first time softly pressed his lips to hers as she put an arm around his neck and kissed him back. Like that? He asked quietly when it ended. Uh-huh. Just like that, she said with a warm smile. I really should go, he told her. Okay, good night and thank you. Thank you for keeping an eye on Avery so I could open my own eyes to something I might have otherwise missed. He could tell by her eyes she wanted him to kiss her again, so he again kissed her one more time before leaving without saying another word. When he left, Hadley stood there for some time thinking about what had happened that night. She started with the kiss and worked backwards to the time Mark arrived and realized she'd been making way too much out of their age difference. Chandler was far more mature, and a much better man than Mark could ever hope to be with his money and his gated home and the gym he had inside it. She couldn't say she was in love with this much younger man, but she knew she had feelings for him and that she'd never let age alone stand in the way of her finding out. And if it turned out he wasn't this perfect guy Chandler mentioned, who'd one day just up and walk into her life, she knew she'd be better off for having gotten to know him. For the first time since James passed away, Hadley felt very hopeful about her romantic future. She was up at 5:30 a.m., and just as she was finishing a cup of coffee, she heard Avery call out for her. She ran into her room and knelt beside the bed and asked what was wrong. "My tummy hurts really bad," she said before she started crying. "Okay, we're going to take you to the doctor," her mom said as she scooped her up. Hadley could tell her fever was way up, and the way Avery was crying told her this was serious. She threw a few things in a bag, grabbed her purse and slung it over her shoulder, then carried her daughter to the SUV. They got to the ER of the nearest hospital in just 10 minutes, as there was mercifully no traffic on the roads yet. Hadley checked them in, and a few minutes later a nurse took them back and checked Avery's vitals. "Her temperature is 104.2, the nurse said. "I'll let the doctor know right away." She wasn't aware that anything over 104 for a child moved the patient up the triage list, and within 10 minutes a doctor showed up and began asking questions as he poked and prodded. "I'm going to run a blood test while we do a CT scan real quick, but I'm pretty sure this is appendicitis," he told her. "Her abdomen is distended, leading me to believe she's getting close to rupturing, so we need to move quickly." Hadley stayed next to her daughter, trying to soothe her and her own nerves, as a nurse drew blood so the lab could check her white cell count. It was now 6:30 a.m., and Hadley knew who to call. "Chandler? It's me. I'm at the hospital with Avery and—" "I'll be right there," he said, cutting her off as he was getting dressed. He flew out of the house and drove straight to the hospital and found her just as the blood results were coming back. "I'm now 100% certain it's appendicitis," the doctor told her just as Chandler came in. Hadley threw her arms around him and told him what was happening. "She'll be fine," Chandler assured her. "They do this all the time, okay?" "Okay," she said, trying not to cry. Chandler let go of her, then bent over and let Avery see him. She was still crying but reached up to hug him. "My tummy hurts really bad, Mr. Marshmallow Man," she said through her tears. "They're going to fix you all up and make it feel better," he assured her. "Will you be here when I'm all better?" she managed to choke out. "Yes, of course I will," he told her. She hugged him tight before the nurse said to Chandler, "We need to take your daughter down to the OR now." "Oh, she's not my—" he began saying as he felt Hadley's hand slip into his. "Thank you," she told the nurse, who promised they'd take good care of her. She kissed Avery on the forehead and told her how much she loved her as they wheeled the gurney out. As they turned around, a hospital administrator was standing there with a clipboard. "Mrs. Kimball? Good morning. Ivathea Pinckney. We need to have you sign a release and discuss payment options. Can you and your husband please follow me?" "Oh, I'm not her." "Yes, we'll come with you," Hadley told her as she squeezed Chandler's hand. Hadley signed the release immediately, then braced for the bad news, knowing she didn't have any insurance. The ER visit alone was just over $1,000, and when she saw the bottom line for the entire procedure, she felt ill. The CT scan cost was nearly $4,000, and the total for the surgery, the OR, and everything so far was a staggering $37,552. "Now this doesn't include post-operative care," Ms. Pinckney told her. "Since you don't have insurance, we need to work out some kind of payment plan. How would you like to take care of this?" Hadley knew she had about $12,000 left in savings, and there was maybe another $22,000 left from her husband's $50,000 life insurance policy. She could pay for the hospital visit but would be wiped out financially. Payments were her only real option, so she said she'd divide the cost into as many monthly payments as the hospital would allow, and signed an agreement to that effect with her first payment due in just 30 days. Chandler didn't say a word as he watched Hadley fighting back tears from the stress of her daughter needing surgery, and compounded by the additional stress of having to pay for it all herself. She never once complained, though, and several times she leaned on Chandler's shoulder or just held his hand. "Thank you for being here," Hadley said after they left the administrator's office. "You couldn't keep me away," he told her as they walked hand in hand. "Chandler, I loved what you said about loving and giving last night, she told him out of nowhere. I meant that, he told her sincerely. I know you did, and she turned toward him and tried to smile as she said, and you're proving it by being here for me. For Avery, too, of course. As I said, you couldn't possibly keep me from being here for you, he told her again. Both of you. As he did, she fell into his arms and cried, the stress finally demanding a release. Chandler stood there and held her until she was strong enough to go sit in the waiting room. Neither of them had eaten, and yet neither of them felt like they could. 2 hours later, the same doctor came out and told them the operation went perfectly and that Avery was being taken to a recovery room where they could go see her in a few minutes. Hadley cried again with sheer relief and thanked the doctor several times before he moved on to his next patient. Come on, let's go see our little girl, Hadley said as she again took Chandler's hand. There were tubes and beeping sounds, and Hadley was shaking when she saw her baby laying there so small and helpless. She waited patiently until she opened her eyes. Avery, honey, can you hear me? Her mom asked. She nodded but didn't speak. You're going to be all better, her mom said, forcing herself to be strong. Did Daddy watch over me? She asked very quietly. Yes, he did, Chandler said, answering for Hadley, and he always will, sweetie. I still want you to be my new daddy, Avery said, barely able to talk. You just try and rest and get better, okay? He told her before kissing her forehead. They sat there for another hour before Hadley finally said, You don't need to stay any longer. I'll be fine now. Are you sure? He asked. Yes, I'm sure, she told him. If I leave, you have to promise to keep me updated whenever anything changes. I will, I promise, she told him. Okay then, I have some things I need to take care of. Can I get you anything before I go? Number, as long as you promise you'll come back, then no, I don't need anything else, she said, her eyes staring into his. We'll get through this, I promise, he told her as he put a hand on her face. Hadley nodded, then said, Yes, we will. Together, right? Yes, together, he told her. By noon, Chandler had the funds he needed. He'd explained it all to his father, who'd agreed to loan him the money after Chandler said he'd sell both locations if necessary. Wow. This woman must be pretty special, his dad said as he wrote out the check for the full amount owed. She is, Dad, she really is, and her daughter is just as special to me. Do you love her? He asked as he handed his son the check. I do, he told him. I haven't told her yet, though. She's needed time to decide what she's feeling, but yes, I do love her. For pretty much anyone else your age, I'd try and talk them out of getting involved with anyone that much older. But knowing you like I do, I know first of all it wouldn't help, and second, I know you have good judgment. If she's this important to you, then she's that important to me too. Thanks, Dad. I can't tell you how much it means knowing you're always there for me. His dad smiled, then said, You did hear me say this was a loan, right? Chandler laughed, then hugged his father and thanked him again. An hour later, the hospital was paid in full, and Chandler made sure Mrs. Pinckney knew this was to be kept anonymous. You are one very generous friend, Mr. Caulfield, she told him when he explained things. Okay, my lips are sealed. He found Hadley right where he'd left her, only this time she was asleep in the chair. He sat down as quietly as he could, then just sat there watching her, and then Avery as they slept. My two angels, he said to himself. Hadley's neck was bent over in what looked like a very painful position, and when she finally woke up, she reached for it, unaware Chandler was there. Oh my heavens, I had no idea you were here, she told him as she rubbed her neck. Here, let me, he told her as he got up and stood behind her. That feels so good, she told him as he massaged her neck. She reached up for his hand as he continued to work and said, I had a dream while you were out. What kind of dream? He asked. Don't laugh, okay? I won't. I dreamed my husband, James, was right there above Avery's bed, she explained, pointing to the area above the bed. He looked down and told me everything was going to be fine because he was watching over us. That must have been very comforting, Chandler told her. It was, she admitted. He said something else, too. Oh? Yeah. He told me he wanted me to be happy, and that he'd sent the perfect man for me, and all I had to do was look for him. I tried talking to him, but he couldn't hear me. I could only hear him. I wanted to know who it was and what his name was. Did he tell you? Chandler asked. Number. He didn't give me a name. He just said, I can't be there anymore, but I'll always be right here watching over both of you. And then he was gone. Chandler, it seemed so real to me. Maybe it's a sign, Chandler said, knowing he didn't believe in such things. She wanted to tell him that's when she woke up and saw him sitting there, the perfect man her husband had sent her way. And that's when Avery woke up. She was feeling much better and asked for something to drink. Chandler handed a cup of water with a straw in it and realized he was finally hungry and asked Hadley if she'd like anything. "I'm actually starving," she said as she reached into her purse. "You've got to be kidding, right?" Chandler said, telling her with his eyes to put that away. "Sorry," she said, "I forgot who I was with for a moment." "Don't let that happen again, young lady," he told her with a smile. "I won't," she said sweetly. "How could I when you're so sweet to me?" While he was out, the doctor stopped in to check on Avery and said everything was right on track. He turned to Hadley and said, "I hear you have a guardian angel." She sat up straight and asked, "What did you just say?" "Mrs. Pinckney told me someone came and paid your bill in full. I was just making a joke about the guardian angel," he said, wondering if he'd done something wrong. "That's not possible," Hadley said. "No one even knows I'm here." She sat quietly for a moment, then said, "Except for one person. If I just let the cat out of the bag, I'm really sorry. I don't know why I assumed you knew," the doctor said, just as Chandler came back with sandwiches and coffee. "Hey, Doc, is everything okay?" he asked as he handed a cup of coffee to Hadley. "Yes, with Avery anyway," he said while looking at Hadley. "What am I missing?" he asked, looking around. The doctor put his hands up and said, "I'm probably already in deep with Mrs. Pinckney. I don't think I should say anything else other than that I'll be back to check on Avery in another 6 hours or so." And with that he was gone. "What was all that about?" Chandler said as he unwrapped a questionable-looking sandwich from the hospital cafeteria and handed it to Hadley, who didn't answer because she had tears in her eyes again and was having trouble speaking. "Hey, are you okay?" Chandler asked now, very concerned. "Did the doctor just tell you something I should know about? Is Avery okay?" "Nothing you don't already know about," she said, reaching for his hand as the tears fell. "I'm getting very concerned," he said as he took her hand. "Can you please explain what just happened?" "It's you," Hadley said as the tears streamed down her face. "You're my guardian angel, aren't you?" I don't know what you're talking about," he said, not sure whether or not he did. There was no way she could know unless that sweet little woman had told her after promising she wouldn't. "Did Mrs. Pinckney stop by while I was out?" he asked, trying to sound unconcerned. "Number she didn't," Hadley said as she stared into his eyes through her tears. Hadley half stood up, then sat down on his lap and put her arms around him. "Okay, as much as I'm enjoying this, what in the world is going on?" Chandler asked. "A miracle," Hadley told him. She wiped her eyes, then sat up to look at him. You happened, Chandler Caulfield. You are my miracle." "By hiring you," he said. "Or is it the cheap sandwich I just brought?" She put her hand on his face and said, I know it was you. And now I know who James meant." She pulled back a bit more, then said, "He meant you, Chandler. You're the man who's perfect for me." "I have no idea what you're talking about, but if it gets you to sit on my lap, I'll take credit for it," he told her with a smile. "You knew I'd never let you because I don't take something for nothing, so you just did it anyway because—" "Because?" he asked. "Because you needed to show me that you loved me without saying a word," she said as tears began to fall again. And I love you too, Chandler." Before he could reply, Hadley leaned down and kissed him. This kiss wasn't like the kisses at her door when she only wondered if she might love him. This was a very real, very meaningful kiss that said she did know, that she was sure, and that she was beyond grateful. Not just for his generosity, but for his love for her too. "Wow, whatever I did, I'm gonna keep doing it," he said when the kiss ended. "I know you will," she told him, "because that's who you are, and that's why I'm falling in love with you." Avery's eyes had just opened, and she'd heard what her mom had said. "So you are going to marry Mr. Marshmallow Man?" she asked, her voice still tiny and frail. "Not unless he asks me, honey," she said without taking her eyes off the man she loved. A month later, he did ask her, and she said yes without the slightest hesitation. Chandler had introduced her and Avery to his parents the day after she was released from the hospital, his father having filled his mother in on the rather unusual situation. Initially concerned, his mother's fears melted away when she met this beautiful, kind, sweet woman and her gorgeous little girl. She and Hadley became friends immediately, and she couldn't wait to babysit for this precious little child who had quickly and fully recovered for her appendectomy. When Chandler brought Hadley to his parents' home to pick up Avery after proposing, Hadley told her daughter what happened and showed her the beautiful new diamond ring on her finger. "So now you're going to marry Mr. Marshmallow Man?" she asked with hopeful excitement. "Yes, I am," she told her. "And if it's okay, he'll be your new daddy." "Well, of course it's okay," she said precociously. "My other daddy already told me he would marry you, so why wouldn't I want him to be my new daddy?" Chandler bent over and picked her up and held her in her arms. "You can call me Daddy if you'd like to," he told her. "I will, sometimes," she said. "But can I still call you Mr. Marshmallow Man too?" "You can call me anything you like, sweetheart," he told his daughter-to-be as Hadley moved over and put her arms around both of them. "I guess there was a reason Avery got out of her car seat that day," she said quietly. "I just had no idea something that seemed so traumatic at the time would lead to something so wonderful." "I guess that's why they call them miracles, right, honey?" he told her. "I guess so, sweetheart," she told him as the three of them held each other close. Chandler's mother got the big wedding she'd always dreamed of, after informing her husband he was going to pay for it and be happy about it. Truth be told, Gil Caulfield was as happy as his wife, as he'd grown to love Hadley like the daughter they'd never had, and he was gaga over little Miss Avery, whom he spoiled horribly, even as Hadley started enforcing boundaries and rules again. Both grandparents loved their new granddaughter dearly, and had she been the only one they ever had, they'd have been thrilled. But when Hadley told them a year later she was 2 months pregnant, Chandler's mother nearly passed out with joy, and Gil was passing out cigars the next day, and then again when their grandson was born 7 months later. Hadley continued helping out at the Legacy location until she was unable to work, then helped Chandler get their third location up and running 2 years later. Chandler Caulfield still found it very hard to believe in the supernatural or in miracles, but when he thought about the odds of all that had happened and the way it had happened, he was at least open to the possibility. And when he held his son for the first time, he actually looked up and said, "James, I never had the privilege of meeting you, but if you're there and looking over your wife and daughter, thank you from the bottom of my heart."